Hello, my name is Jonathan Hayes. I'm 32 years old, an HVAC technician living in Denver, Colorado. My life isn't glamorous. A small apartment, an old pickup truck, and days that pass as steadily as the ticking of the faded wall clock in my living room. But I have Amelia, my 7-year-old daughter, and she is my entire world. Every morning as the dawn peeks through the snow-dusted buildings, I drive her to school, listening to her sing along to the radio. Amelia's clear, innocent voice is the only thing that can melt the chill of a Colorado winter in my heart. But before I built this little haven for just the two of us, I grew up in a place where home was merely a formality, a place where I never felt I belonged. My parents, Arthur and Helen Hayes, were strict, traditional people. My father, now 58, was a construction company manager before he retired. He was disciplined, always impeccably put together, but to me he was like a stone wall, cold and unyielding. My mother, 55, was the kind of woman constantly busy with afternoon teas and neighbors, meticulously curating the image of a perfect family she took pride in. But that perfection, to me, was a fragile veneer hiding the emptiness I felt since childhood. I was the middle child, caught between my older sister Stella and my younger brother Ryan. Stella, 3 years my senior, was my parents' pride. Smart, articulate, always commanding attention. Now 35, she's a single mother too, but her life is nothing like mine. Stella lives extravagantly, spending money like water on designer handbags and lavish vacations she flaunts on social media. Ryan, 28, is the family's good little boy. Working an office job, he's been handed a house and a car by our parents, never needing to worry about money. And me? I'm Jonathan, the good-for-nothing in their eyes. From a young age, I grew used to being compared, ignored, and sidelined from the praise or gifts lavished on my siblings. I still remember Christmas nights as a kid, sitting at the corner of the table, quietly watching the family laugh and chatter. Stella was praised for an outstanding school essay. Ryan got a shiny new toy car, while I received only a curt nod when I showed my mother a drawing I'd made. Once I brought home a scholarship certificate, bursting with excitement to show my father. He glanced at it and said coldly, "Learn to be humble, don't show off." Those words, though nearly 20 years old, still sting like a needle in my heart. They reminded me that, in my parents' eyes, I was never good enough. But I didn't hold a grudge. I learned to stay quiet, avoid conflict, and lock away my emotions as if that was the only way to survive. I left home as soon as I could, working odd jobs while training as a technician, renting a tiny room, and building a life on my own. I didn't want to rely on anyone or seek validation from my family. I just wanted a simple life, free of drama and pain. And then I met Madison. Madison was a nurse 2 years younger than me, with a smile as bright as summer sunlight. We fell in love, got married, and had Amelia. For those early years, I thought I'd found happiness. But when Amelia turned 2, Madison left. One morning, I woke up to find a signed divorce paper on the kitchen table with a few scrawled lines. "I'm sorry, Jonathan. I can't keep going." No explanation, no phone call. She vanished, leaving me and Amelia in our small apartment with the shattered pieces of the family I'd dreamed of. I don't hate Madison. She must have had her reasons, but I don't want to dig into them. The only thing that matters is Amelia, the little girl with big brown eyes and a smile that melts my heart. I became a single dad, learning to braid hair, cook meals, and answer her innocent questions about the world. "Daddy, why can birds fly but I can't? Daddy, does Mommy miss me?" Those questions, especially the ones about her mother, always leave me choking back emotion. I just hug her and tell her Daddy will always be here, and that's enough. Our life as father and daughter is simple but peaceful. Every morning I wake early, brew coffee, and make breakfast with toast and scrambled eggs, Amelia's favorite. I drive her to school, letting her sit in the front passenger seat, singing along to old pop songs on the radio. Amelia loves to sing loudly, sometimes making me join in, though my voice sounds like a buzzsaw. In those moments, with sunlight streaming through the car window and her clear voice ringing out, I feel like the luckiest man alive. But today, as I smiled watching her wave goodbye through the classroom window, I had no idea that smile, that simple, warm smile, would soon fade, and the peaceful days of just the two of us were about to be turned upside down forever. That day, as I drove to the workshop, my phone buzzed. It was my mother, Helen. Her voice over the phone was as even and polite as always, but something about it put me on edge. "Jonathan, bring Amelia to the house this weekend. We'd like a family gathering. It's been a while." I hesitated. Family gatherings were never joyful for me. But she continued, her tone softening. "Amelia's growing up. Let her spend time with her grandparents and cousins." Her words tugged at my heart, though deep down I knew her invitations often came with ulterior motives. I sighed and agreed. "All right, Mom. I'll bring Amelia." I hung up, staring out the window at the thickening snow as if it foreshadowed something ominous. I told myself I was overthinking, but a nagging unease clung to me like the cold seeping through my thin jacket. The weekend arrived faster than I'd hoped. On Sunday morning, I woke early and made breakfast for Amelia. Toast with strawberry jam, her favorite. She sat at the table, swinging her legs, clutching her old teddy bear she called Mr. Fluffy. "Daddy, am I going to see Lily today?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. Lily was Stella's 10-year-old daughter, and Amelia always got excited talking about her cousin. I smiled and nodded, but inwardly I wasn't sure how Lily or the other kids would treat her. "Yeah, you'll see everyone. But remember, if anything upsets you, just tell me, okay?" Amelia nodded, grinning widely, oblivious to the worry in my eyes. We drove to Aurora, where my parents lived, about 40 minutes from Denver. Their house loomed in the distance, pristine with its white picket fence and neatly trimmed garden. On the surface, it was the picture of a happy family, but I knew the walls hid a far more complicated reality. My mother opened the door, her smile forced as if merely for courtesy. "Jonathan, Amelia, come in," she said, her voice gentle but lacking warmth. I nodded, guiding Amelia inside. My father, as usual, sat in his armchair, eyes glued to the news on TV. He glanced at us, gave a single nod, then turned back to the screen. Stella and Ryan were already there, sitting around the coffee table, chatting animatedly about Stella's recent trip to Las Vegas. They barely noticed us, offering a quick glance before resuming their conversation. Amelia clung to my hand, her big round eyes scanning the room, searching for any sign of welcome. A chill ran down my spine, not from the weather, but from the atmosphere in this house. Dinner began heavily. The table was set impeccably with a crisp white tablecloth and the fine china my mother always boasted about. But one detail stabbed at my heart. Amelia was seated at the edge of the table on an old plastic chair, while everyone else had matching wooden ones. Her plate and cup were different too, a faded green plastic set, as if to remind her she didn't truly belong. I swallowed my discomfort, telling myself we just had to get through the evening. Amelia sat quietly, her small hands clutching Mr. Fluffy under the table. I gently touched her shoulder, smiling encouragingly. "Eat up, sweetie. Grandma's stew is really good," I whispered. She nodded, but her eyes were wary, as if she sensed the distance in the room. The meal began, the clink of cutlery against plates ringing out. Stella talked about her new designer handbag, Ryan bragged about a work project, and my parents nodded approvingly. No one spoke to Amelia or asked me anything. I tried to join in, asking about my father's health, but he brushed me off with a curt, "Fine." Then Stella turned to Amelia, her tone teasing but sharp as a blade. "Amelia, you're so big now and still carrying that teddy bear? Kids without moms are often so fragile. You need to toughen up." The table erupted in dry laughter, as if her words were a harmless joke. My face burned, my hand clenching under the table. Amelia bowed her head, lips pressed tight, her eyes welling with tears. I placed a hand on her shoulder, whispering, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mr. Fluffy's a great friend, right?" She nodded, but her smile was gone. After dinner, the kids, Lily, Max, and Ryan's son, Ethan, ran to the living room to play. I hoped Amelia would fit in, but minutes later I heard whispers from the corner. "You don't have a mom, do you?" Did she abandon you? It was Max, Stella's older son. Amelia stood there, clutching her bear, her voice trembling. No, my mom just went away. Lily giggled, chiming in. Went away means she ditched you. You're the kid who got left behind, got it? I shot to my feet, heart pounding, but before I could intervene, Amelia ran to me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Daddy, I want to go home, she sobbed, burying herself in my arms. Ryan, sitting nearby, gave an awkward laugh. Kids, you know, just teasing, Jonathan. Don't make a big deal out of it. I locked eyes with my brother, struggling to contain the anger surging in my chest. Teasing? You think saying that to a 7-year-old is teasing? I said, my voice low but icy. Ryan shrugged and looked away, as if I were overreacting. Stella shook her head, saying in a patronizing tone, Jonathan, she's too sensitive. Spoil her like that, and she'll grow up weak. I held Amelia tighter, feeling her small body tremble in my arms. I don't want to come here anymore, Daddy, she whispered, her voice choked with sobs. Everyone here is scary. Her words cut through me like a knife. I looked at her, seeing her big brown eyes now red and teary, and in that moment I saw myself. The child from years ago, sitting silently at the table's edge, ignored and belittled. The cycle of coldness, of invisible wounds, was repeating itself on my daughter. I led Amelia to the car, telling my mother we had to leave early. Helen stood at the door, her expression a mix of disappointment and reproach. Jonathan, don't coddle her too much, she said evenly, as if lecturing. You need to toughen her up. I didn't respond, just nodded to get through the moment, but inside I felt an unbridgeable chasm. My mother never understood what hurt felt like, never saw the scars she and my father left on me and now on Amelia. On the drive home, Amelia fell asleep in the passenger seat, still clutching Mr. Fluffy. I drove in silence, streetlights flickering across the windshield, illuminating her small face. In the rearview mirror, I caught a glimpse of my younger self, the quiet boy who endured, trying to please a family that never acknowledged him. Anger surged, mingling with helplessness and pain. I gripped the steering wheel, vowing that I wouldn't let Amelia grow up with the same wounds I carried. When we got home, I carried Amelia to her room, tucked her into bed, and covered her carefully with a blanket. I sat there for a long time, watching her sleep, listening to her steady breathing. Outside the window, the first snow fell quietly, blanketing the street in white. I stood up and walked to the living room, gently closing Amelia's bedroom door to avoid waking her. I sank onto the sofa, the cold coffee from this morning still sitting on the table. Outside, snow continued to fall, each flake landing silently, as if recounting the story of old days. Days I'd tried to bury deep, but now they resurfaced, vivid and more painful than ever. I grew up in a family where love came with conditions. As the middle child, I was trapped between my older sister, Stella, and younger brother, Ryan, both placed on pedestals as shining stars. Stella, smart and charming, always knew how to make our parents proud. She earned top grades, won speech competitions, and whenever she brought home an award, Mom would hug her, and Dad would pat her shoulder, saying, "This girl's going places." Ryan, the youngest, was the family's treasure. He was mischievous, but every mistake was brushed off with a wave and a smile. He's just a kid, let him have fun. And me? I was Jonathan, the quiet child, never standing out, never noticed unless I did something wrong. I remember a summer evening when I was 12. Ryan, then 8, dragged me to the park near our house. He wanted to stay longer, even though I'd called Mom to ask if we could come home early. But Ryan insisted, pulling me along with his friends, laughing under the sunset. When we got back late, Mom was waiting at the door, her eyes icy. "Jonathan, why did you let your brother come home so late?" she snapped, giving me no chance to explain. Ryan stood behind her, head bowed, but I knew he wasn't worried. He knew I'd take the blame. Dad walked in, looking at me with disappointment. "You should know how to look after your brother. Don't be so irresponsible." I tried to say it was Ryan's idea to stay, but Dad cut me off. "Don't make excuses." I was grounded in my room all evening, listening to the family's laughter outside as if I didn't exist. Moments like that repeated like small scratches that grew into a deep wound. Every Christmas as the family gathered around the tree, I sat at the table's edge watching Stella open sparkling gifts and Ryan show off his new toy car. My gift was always an afterthought, a pair of oversized gloves or an old book grabbed from a shelf. My mother wasn't cruel, but her love was cold, what she called proper parenting. She believed coddling made children weak, that strictness was the best way to shape them. To me, her strictness was reprimands, indifferent glances and moments where I tried to earn her approval but was never acknowledged. At 14, I overheard her tell a neighbor, "The eldest and the youngest both have bright futures, but the middle one? Who knows what he'll amount to?" Those words, though seemingly casual, haunted me for years, echoing every time I failed, every time I felt invisible. I learned to stay silent, not out of weakness, but because I thought it was the only way to survive in that family. I didn't argue or push back. I quietly did what was asked. But inside every reprimand, every dismissive look was another stone added to the invisible backpack I carried. I told myself that if I tried harder, studied better, worked more diligently, I'd prove my worth. But no matter how hard I tried, to my parents, I remained the good-for-nothing child. As soon as I could, I left home. I trained as a technician, worked odd jobs, and rented a small room in the Denver suburbs. I didn't want to rely on my family or ask for anything from them. I wanted to stand on my own, to build a life free from needing their validation. And then I met Madison. She was like summer sunlight with a radiant smile and a gentle voice. I thought I'd found someone who understood me, someone to build a real home with. We married, had Amelia, and for those early years I believed I'd escaped the shadow of my past. But then Madison left. No explanation, no contact afterward. I crumbled, not because I lost her, but because I feared Amelia would grow up feeling abandoned as I had. Looking at her, just 2 years old, sleeping in her crib, I vowed she'd never feel invisible, never have to crave love as I did. Now, watching Amelia, I see my old wounds resurface. Tonight at dinner, when she clung to me, sobbing after being teased by her cousins, I didn't just see her pain. I saw young Jonathan sitting silently at the table's edge, trying not to cry. I realized that despite my efforts to leave the past behind, it had found a way back through how my family treated Amelia. They didn't just belittle me. They were doing the same to my daughter. And that, I couldn't accept. I turned off the light, letting the room sink into darkness. Only the faint glow from the hallway illuminated a photo on the wall of Amelia and me at the park. She was beaming, and I stood behind her, my smile soft but full of pride. That light was small but warm, like the flicker of fire in my chest, the fire of father-daughter love, of hope, and of a resolve to break the cycle that had trapped me for too long. The next morning, I woke up with a mix of emotions. The image of Amelia sobbing at my parents' house lingered like an unhealed wound. I brewed coffee, made toast with strawberry jam for Amelia, and tried to keep the mood normal. She emerged from her room clutching Mr. Fluffy, her eyes still carrying a trace of sadness from the night before. "Daddy, I don't have to go back to Grandma's today, do I?" she asked softly. I smiled, ruffling her hair. "No, sweetheart. Today I'll take you to school, and tonight we'll have pizza, okay?" Amelia nodded, her smile slowly returning. But I knew the hurt from that evening at my parents' house still simmered in her heart. As I was getting ready to drive Amelia to school, my phone buzzed. The screen showed Stella's name. I frowned, a familiar unease stirring. After last night, I wanted nothing to do with my family. But I answered, my voice cautious. "Hello, Stella." Her voice came through unusually sweet, as if nothing had happened. "Jonathan, listen, I had a great idea. The whole family's planning a trip to Disney World in Florida to bond. You and Amelia have to come. The kids can't wait to see her again." I froze, gripping the phone tightly. Disney World? Family bonding? The words sounded like a dream, but with my family, everything came at a cost. "Are you serious?" I asked, unable to hide my skepticism. Stella laughed, her voice smooth as a salesperson's. Of course, Jonathan. Mom and Dad want this too. It's been ages since we all went somewhere together. Amelia will love it. I glanced at Amelia, who was drawing a Disney castle on a piece of paper, her eyes sparkling at the mention of Princess Elsa. I knew she adored Disney World, glued to the TV every night, oohing and aahing at the glittering Cinderella castle. I'll think about it, I replied, keeping my tone steady. Stella pressed on, her voice bubbly. What's there to think about, Jonathan? It's a chance for the family to get closer. I'll cover the plane tickets, so don't worry. I hung up, my heart heavy. Amelia looked up, curious. Who was that, Daddy? I sat beside her, smiling. Aunt Stella. She invited us to Disney World with the family. Her eyes lit up, her mouth dropping open. Really, Daddy? Disney World? I want to meet Mickey Mouse and Princess Elsa. Her excitement warmed my heart, but also stung. I didn't want her facing my family's coldness again, but those bright eyes made it impossible to say no. That afternoon, my mother called. Her voice was gentle, a rare softness. Jonathan, I think this trip will be good for Amelia. She needs to have fun, to spend time with her grandparents and cousins again. You left too early yesterday. Her words softened me, though deep down I knew it wouldn't be simple. I agreed to a family meeting to discuss the details despite the unease clinging to me. That weekend, I brought Amelia to my parents' house in Aurora to talk about the trip. The atmosphere in the pristine house was as chilly as before, but this time, everyone seemed warmer. Stella hugged Amelia, calling her my dear, which surprised me. Ryan clapped my shoulder, grinning. It's been a while since we hung out, huh? My parents sat at the head of the table, Mom smiling, Dad nodding, as if the family was truly trying to mend ties. But when we started discussing costs, I saw the truth behind their smiles. Stella spoke first, her voice gentle but calculated. This trip's a bit pricey. Plane tickets, hotel, park passes. Those who can should chip in more, right? Ryan nodded, sighing. You know, Jonathan, I'm swamped with house and car payments. Mom and Dad are getting older. They shouldn't have to cover much. Every eye in the room turned to me. I felt cornered but kept my voice calm. What are you all getting at? I asked, though I already knew. My mother looked at me, her tone even. Jonathan, you're the most stable. Help the family out a bit. I know you can. Stella smiled, adding, just this once, Jonathan. For Amelia to have a special memory with the family. I stayed silent, my hand clenching under the table. I knew this trip wasn't entirely about love. They needed my money, the stability they'd once dismissed. But when I looked at Amelia playing with Mr. Fluffy, humming about Disney castles, I couldn't say no. I nodded, saying, I'll think it over. The family smiled, as if the matter was settled. That night, I sat in the living room, my laptop open, checking my savings account. Over $10,000, money I'd scrimped for months to fix up the apartment and secure Amelia's future. This trip would drain nearly all of it. I sat deep in thought, torn. Part of me wanted to refuse, to shield Amelia from my family, from words and looks that could hurt her. But then I saw her on the sofa, drawing a Disney castle, her eyes glowing. Daddy, I drew this castle for you. The one at Disney World is probably even prettier, she exclaimed, holding up her sketch. I smiled, though my heart ached. I couldn't take that joy from her. I thought of the nights Amelia watched Disney World ads on TV, gasping at fireworks and princesses. I thought of myself yearning for my family's approval all those years. Maybe, I told myself, this trip could be a chance to heal, for Amelia to feel the family love even just once. I wanted to believe my family could change, that they'd love her as I did. I sighed, closed the laptop, and decided to join the trip and cover most of the costs. About $7,000. The days that followed buzzed with Amelia's excitement. She darted around the apartment, packing her suitcase, picking out dresses, and chattering nonstop about the rides she wanted to try at Disney World. Daddy, can we go on the roller coaster? She asked, eyes sparkling. I laughed, nodding. Sure, but you've got to hold my hand tight, okay? She giggled, hugging me tightly. Meanwhile, Stella and Ryan kept texting, sending pictures of the hotel, plane tickets, and vibrant Disney World images. They asked about Amelia, calling her our dear girl, even sending park promo videos for her to watch. My mother called, her voice softer than usual. Jonathan, I hope this trip brings the family closer. Amelia deserves a fun vacation. I was surprised by their change, but part of me wanted to believe. I wanted to trust they cared, that this trip would be a fresh start. The day before the trip, I took Amelia to buy new shoes. She picked a sparkly pink pair, saying they'd help her run really fast at Disney World. Watching her skip around the store, I smiled, but the unease lingered. That night, I helped her pack. She tucked in Mr. Fluffy, a blue dress, and a small notebook to draw Disney World. Daddy, I'm going to draw the best castle for you, she declared, eyes shining. I ruffled her hair, laughing. I can't wait to see it. After Amelia went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table reviewing plane tickets and the itinerary. My phone buzzed with a text from Stella. Jonathan, don't forget the money tomorrow. The hotel's amazing. Amelia will love it. I frowned, not replying. I held the envelope of cash, folded it carefully, and tucked it into my wallet. I didn't yet know that my trust, my longing for family approval, would soon be betrayed in the cruelest way. The day of departure finally arrived. I woke at 4 in the morning when Denver was still cloaked in darkness and the biting chill of winter. Amelia, in contrast, bounced out of bed with boundless energy, her eyes sparkling despite the early hour. She darted around the apartment, clutching Mr. Fluffy, checking her suitcase for the 10th time, chattering nonstop about Disney World. Daddy, today I'll meet Mickey Mouse, right? And Cinderella's castle too. I smiled, though a corner of my heart remained uneasy. Yes, sweetheart. Today will be special, I said, smoothing her curly hair. Watching Amelia skip around in her blue dress and sparkly pink shoes, my heart warmed. I wanted her to have a beautiful memory, a day she'd cherish forever. But as I locked the apartment door, preparing to take Amelia to the car, my phone buzzed. The screen showed Mr. Patterson, my biggest client. He owned a chain of restaurants in Denver, and I'd just signed a contract to install a cooling system for his new branch. I answered, and his voice was urgent, almost shouting, Jonathan, the cooling system at the downtown branch is down. Hundreds of pounds of food are at risk of spoiling. You need to get here now, or the contract's done and I'll sue you for double the damages. I froze, gripping the phone tightly. This contract was my main income, the money for Amelia's school fees, rent, and savings for her future. I'll try to arrange something, I stammered, but Patterson cut me off. No arranging. Get here now, Jonathan. I looked at Amelia standing by the door, clutching her small suitcase, her eyes shining with anticipation. I called a colleague, hoping he could cover, but no one was available. Everyone was tied up at other sites. Time slipped by. The clock already read 7 a.m. I stood there, my mind a tangled mess. On one side was the biggest contract of the year. On the other, the trip Amelia had been dreaming of for a month. I couldn't let her down, but I couldn't lose this contract either. In a panic, I called my mother. I explained the situation briefly, my voice trembling. Mom, I've got an emergency at work. The cooling system broke and I have to fix it now or they'll cancel the contract. Can I send Amelia with the family? There was a pause, then she replied in a rare, gentle tone, Don't worry, Jonathan. Leave Amelia with me. I'll take care of her. Go do your job. Don't let it fall apart over something small. Her words eased my mind, but something still felt off. You'll keep an eye on her, right? I asked, my voice urgent. Of course, she said. Amelia's my granddaughter. I hesitated, watching Amelia on the sofa, humming a song from Frozen, clutching Mr. Fluffy. I didn't want to send her alone, didn't want to entrust her to my family after what happened. But her eager eyes, the way she gripped her suitcase as if afraid to miss the trip, made it impossible to say no. All right, I told myself. It's just one day. I'll fix the system this morning and catch a later flight to Florida to join her. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to believe everything would be fine. I drove Amelia to the airport meeting point where the family was waiting. Stella, Ryan, my parents, and the kids stood at the check-in area chatting animatedly. Amelia ran over, hugging my mother. "Grandma, I'm going to Disney World," she squealed. My mother smiled, stroking her hair. "Yes, my dear. Grandma will take you to have so much fun." Stella and Ryan smiled too, asking Amelia about Mr. Fluffy and what rides she wanted to try at Disney. Seeing them, I wanted to believe they'd treat her kindly. I knelt before Amelia, adjusting the laces on her sparkly pink shoes. "Be good for Grandma, okay?" I said, keeping my voice steady. "Take lots of pictures at Disney World for me, all right?" Amelia nodded, beaming. "Yes, Daddy." "I'll take pictures of Cinderella's castle." I hugged her tightly, feeling her small warmth in my arms. Then I pulled the envelope of cash from my wallet and handed it to my mother. "This is for the trip," I said quietly. "Here's Amelia's allergy medicine. Make sure she takes it on time. And here are snacks, the hotel address, emergency contacts." I gave detailed instructions as if handing over my entire world. My mother nodded, placing a hand on my shoulder. "Don't worry, Jonathan. I'll take care of Amelia." I searched her eyes for sincerity, but saw only her familiar polite smile. Stella clapped my shoulder, grinning. "Go do your work, little brother. We've got Amelia covered." I nodded, suppressing the unease. I looked at Amelia one last time, seeing her wave, Mr. Fluffy peeking out beside her. "Bye, Daddy. Love you," she shouted, her clear voice echoing through the check-in area. As the shuttle bus carrying the family pulled away from the lot, I stood there watching until it vanished. Amelia waved through the window, her smile as bright as sunlight. I smiled back, but my heart was heavy. I told myself that once I finished the job today, I'd fly to Florida tomorrow and reunite with her. I got into my truck and drove straight to Patterson's restaurant, trying to focus on work. But Amelia's image lingered, my little girl clutching her bear, trusting in a trip I couldn't join. At the restaurant, I worked like a machine. The cooling system had a fried main circuit, and I dismantled each part, checking every cable in the freezing cold of the walk-in freezer. Sweat soaked my back, but I didn't stop. I needed to finish by noon to catch the afternoon flight. As I worked, I pictured Amelia at Disney World running around, snapping photos with Mickey Mouse, laughing brightly under the Florida sun. The thought made me smile, if only briefly. My phone buzzed several times, but I couldn't answer. My hands were covered in grease and grime. I figured it was Stella or Mom letting me know they'd arrived. Finally, by 3 p.m., the cooling system was back online. Mr. Patterson clapped my shoulder, promising to pay on time. I exhaled in relief, wiping sweat from my forehead, and raced home to prepare for the flight. But as I got into my truck, my phone buzzed incessantly. It was an unfamiliar number, Denver International Airport's area code. I frowned, thinking it might be Mom using a different phone. I answered, and a man's calm but serious voice came through. "Mr. Jonathan Hayes? This is airport security. Your daughter Amelia is here. Alone." My heart stopped. "Alone? What do you mean?" I asked, my voice trembling. The man replied, "Your family boarded a flight 5 hours ago, but Amelia was left behind at the gate. She's crying, holding her ticket and passport. Can you come immediately?" The world around me went silent. I asked again, hoping I'd misheard. "Left behind? My family, they left." The officer confirmed, his voice cold. "The flight landed in Florida nearly an hour ago. No one has contacted the airport." I gripped the steering wheel, feeling like the world was collapsing. Amelia, my 7-year-old daughter, was abandoned at the airport alone, while my family, the people I trusted, had left without looking back. I floored the gas, speeding to the airport, my heart flooded with anger and guilt. The image of Amelia crying, clutching Mr. Fluffy, sitting alone in the vast airport, choked my heart. I'd been wrong. Wrong to trust my family, wrong to believe they'd care for her. I swore that when I saw Amelia again, I'd never let her feel such pain again. But first I had to reach her, hold her close, and fix the biggest mistake of my life. At the airport, I rushed to the security area the officer had directed me to over the phone. My heart pounded, my breath ragged. A female security officer led me to the lost children's room, a small space with plastic chairs and a few old toys. And there was Amelia, curled up on a chair clutching Mr. Fluffy, her face streaked with tears. Her sparkly pink shoes were smudged with dirt, her ticket and passport scattered beside her. "Amelia," I called, my voice breaking. She looked up, saw me, and burst into sobs. "Daddy!" She threw herself into my arms, her small hands gripping my neck, her body trembling. I knelt down, holding her tightly, feeling her racing heartbeat. "I'm here, sweetheart. Daddy's here," I whispered, fighting back tears. Amelia sobbed, her voice halting. "Grandma, everyone left." I called, but no one came back. Each word stabbed my heart. I stroked her hair, keeping my voice steady. "It's okay, sweetie. Daddy's here now. I won't let you be alone again." But inside, a burning anger mixed with guilt. I'd entrusted her to my family, believed they'd care for her, and they'd betrayed that trust in the cruelest way. The officer nearby explained, "We reviewed the security footage. Your family boarded the plane at 10 a.m., but Amelia was left at the waiting area. No one came back for her for nearly 40 minutes before the flight took off." He handed me a report, his tone serious. "We filed a report for abandoning a minor in a secure area. The case will be forwarded to Child Welfare Services for investigation." I nodded, my hand shaking as I signed the papers, the pen nearly slipping from my grip. I didn't care about reports or investigations. All I wanted was to take Amelia home, hold her close, and ease the fear in her heart. I carried Amelia to the truck, her arms still wrapped around Mr. Fluffy, silent. On the drive home, I turned on the radio, hoping music would comfort her, but she just stared out the window, her eyes red. "Daddy, why didn't Grandma wait for me?" she asked, her voice tiny. I took her hand, keeping my tone calm. "I don't know, sweetheart. But I promise from now on I won't let you be apart from me." Amelia nodded, but her eyes, once sparkling at the thought of Disney World, were now empty, as if her trust had been stolen. Back at the apartment, I carried Amelia to her room, tucked her into bed, and covered her carefully with a blanket. She fell asleep, likely exhausted from hours of crying at the airport. I sat by her side, watching her face, guilt weighing on my chest like a boulder. I'd failed to protect her, let her feel the pain I'd once endured. I thought of my family, my parents, Stella, Ryan, and their betrayal. They hadn't just abandoned Amelia, they'd taken her joy, her trust, and the last shred of hope I had for a real family. I wouldn't let Amelia grow up feeling abandoned as I had. I would confront my family even if it meant cutting all ties. From this moment, I knew everything had changed forever. The next morning, while Amelia was still asleep, I called my father. His voice came through the phone, calm to the point of infuriating me. "Jonathan, what's with the early call?" he asked, as if everything were normal. I got straight to the point, my voice cold. "Dad, why did you all abandon Amelia at the airport?" There was a pause, then he replied, his tone as casual as if discussing the weather. "Oh, it was just an oversight. We were rushing to board and forgot her. If she missed this trip, there'll be another. Don't make a big deal out of it." My grip tightened on the phone, anger surging through me. "An oversight? You forgot a 7-year-old at the airport and you call that an oversight?" He sighed, his voice growing irritated. "Jonathan, don't be so sensitive. Is she okay? Just bring her home." His words were like salt in a wound. No one could accidentally forget a child in their family like that. I hung up, unwilling to hear more. I knew that if I kept silent, the cycle of indifference and hurt would never end. I had to act, not just for Amelia, but for myself, the child still trapped in the reprimands and dismissive glances of my past. I contacted Tom, a lawyer I knew through a friend. He'd helped me with my divorce from Madison, and I trusted he could help me seek justice. I went to his office, bringing the airport police report. Sitting in his small office, I recounted everything, from the family gathering at my parents' house to the Disney World trip to the moment I got the call from the airport. Tom listened, nodding, taking careful notes. When I finished, he looked at me, his voice serious. "Jonathan, this is a serious matter. Abandoning a minor at an airport is a legal violation. With the police report and security footage, we can file a lawsuit for child endangerment. But you need to understand, suing your own parents is a big step. Are you ready?" I sat in silence, staring out the window. Outside, snow fell quietly, blanketing the Denver street. I thought of Amelia, her red-rimmed eyes, when I found her at the airport. I thought of myself, years of enduring my family's dismissal in silence. "I'm ready," I said, my voice firm. "I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for Amelia." Tom nodded, shaking my hand. "All right. I'll prepare the paperwork and file with the Denver District Court. It won't be easy, but we have enough evidence." A week later, when my family returned from Florida, my parents received the lawsuit notice from the court. I wasn't there when they opened the envelope, but I could imagine their faces: shock, anger, and perhaps a hint of shame. My mother called that evening, her voice trembling with rage. "Jonathan, what are you doing? Suing your own parents? How could you be so ungrateful?" I gripped the phone, forcing myself to stay calm. "Mom, I didn't want to escalate this. But you abandoned Amelia, left her at the airport like she was disposable. I can't forgive that," she shouted. "It was just a mistake. You're destroying the family." I let out a dry laugh, my voice cold. "Family? What kind of family forgets their granddaughter at an airport?" My father called right after, his voice low but sharp. "Jonathan, drop the lawsuit. Don't let the whole neighborhood know about this." I replied without hesitation, "No, Dad. I'm seeing this through. Not for me, but for Amelia." He hung up without another word. Stella and Ryan didn't call, but I got a text from Stella. "Jonathan, what are you doing? Trying to ruin the family's reputation?" I didn't respond. They didn't understand, and maybe never would, that reputation meant nothing compared to my daughter's safety and trust. The news spread quickly. Within days, local papers ran stories. "Denver man sues own parents for abandoning 7-year-old daughter at airport." One outlet even published a photo of Amelia. Not showing her face, but her sparkly pink shoes and familiar teddy bear were unmistakable. The story exploded on social media, drawing thousands of comments condemning my family's callousness. The Hayes family, once seen as a model in the neighborhood, became the center of outrage. I heard my mother stopped attending her afternoon teas, and my father avoided going out, keeping the house shut tight. I didn't care about public opinion. I cared about Amelia. In the days leading up to the court hearing, I stayed close to home, spending every moment with her. Amelia grew quieter, sometimes startling awake from sleep, as if still haunted by those hours alone at the airport. I took her to see a child psychologist, Sarah, whose gentle voice and approach helped Amelia begin to open up. During each session, I sat outside listening as her voice grew steadier. But every time she mentioned the airport, guilt stabbed me like a knife. Each night after Amelia slept, I sat in the living room watching the snow fall outside. I thought about the upcoming trial, about what I'd face. But every time Amelia flinched in her sleep or clung to my hand at the sound of anything reminiscent of an airport, I grew more certain I had no other choice. I had to stand up, not just for her, but for the child I once was, still trapped in reprimands and dismissive glances. I wouldn't let that cycle continue. Wouldn't let Amelia carry the scars I'd borne my whole life. I walked into the courtroom on the first day, holding Amelia's hand. She wore a blue sweater, her sparkly pink shoes, and clutched Mr. Fluffy like a shield. I knelt down, whispering, "Stay outside with Miss Sarah, okay? Daddy will be done soon and come back to you." Amelia nodded, her eyes still tinged with fear, but she smiled, as if trying to reassure me. I took a deep breath and stepped through the courtroom doors, feeling like I was entering a battle I couldn't afford to lose. Inside, my parents sat on the defendant's side, their expressions cold and distant. My father, Arthur, wore a black suit, as impeccable as always, but I saw his hands clenched, restraining his anger. My mother, Helen, sat beside him, lips pressed tightly, avoiding my gaze. Stella and Ryan were there too, silent, heads bowed, as if wishing to disappear from the room. I sat at the plaintiff's table beside Tom, my lawyer, feeling both resolute and hollow. I didn't want to face my family like this, but I had no other choice. Tom opened, his voice calm but sharp. He laid out the case. From the family gathering at my parents' house to the Disney World trip to the moment I received the airport police call. He requested the security footage be shown. Undeniable evidence. The courtroom's large screen lit up, and there was Amelia, my little girl, sitting alone on a gate chair. She clutched Mr. Fluffy, her sparkly pink shoes smudged with dirt, her face streaked with tears. The footage shifted, showing my parents, Stella and Ryan, walking through the gate, none looking back. The room fell silent, broken only by a faint sob from a corner. I didn't dare look, afraid I couldn't hold back my own tears. My parents' lawyer tried to defend them, claiming it was an unfortunate oversight in the airport chaos. The Hayes family deeply regrets this, he said smoothly. They had no intention of abandoning the child. It was a misunderstanding. But Tom countered swiftly, calling an airport worker to testify. A young woman who had found Amelia recounted. She sat there for nearly 40 minutes, crying and calling for her grandmother. No one from the family came back. The security report confirmed it, and the footage was clear. They left, abandoning Amelia like an unneeded item. I was called to the witness stand. Standing before the court, I felt my family's eyes like needles on my skin. But I didn't look at them. I faced the judge, recounting the story. From entrusting Amelia to my family, to the shock of the police call, to finding her trembling and crying at the airport. I trusted my family, I said, my voice breaking. I gave them my daughter, thinking they'd care for her. But they abandoned her, left a 7-year-old like she didn't exist. I paused, taking a deep breath. I'm not suing for revenge. I'm suing because I want my daughter to know she deserves to be loved, to be protected. As I left the stand, the courtroom was silent. I saw my mother bow her head, hands covering her face, while my father stared blankly ahead. Stella shook her head, whispering to Ryan, but I didn't care. I'd said what needed to be said, and I knew the truth was on my side. After 3 tense weeks, the Denver District Court delivered its verdict. I won. My father, Arthur, was convicted of abandonment and child endangerment, receiving a 2-year suspended sentence, a $25,000 fine, and a 10-year no-contact order with Amelia. My mother, Helen, was sentenced to 500 hours of community service, a $15,000 fine, and mandatory child awareness training. I was awarded $250,000 for emotional distress and Amelia's therapy costs. As the judge read the verdict, I sat there, hands clenched, feeling a weight lift from my chest. But no joy came. Instead, I felt an emptiness, not because I'd won, but because I'd lost my family in a way I never wanted. The public reaction erupted. Thousands of social media comments supported me, calling me a brave father for prioritizing my daughter's safety over family honor. But there were also critics, labeling me ungrateful or a son who destroyed his family. I didn't read them all. I only cared about Amelia, about helping her heal from this trauma. My parents became the focus of outrage. The Hayes family, once seen as a neighborhood model, was drowned in scandal. My mother stopped attending her teas. My father avoided leaving the house, keeping the doors shut tight. They disowned me, sending a curt text. We no longer have a son named Jonathan. Those words should have hurt, but strangely, they held no weight. They'd abandoned me long ago, from the days I was a quiet boy at the table's edge, waiting for praise that never came. Stella tried to stay neutral, but was clearly furious. She sent a long email accusing me of ruining the family's reputation. I didn't reply. Ryan stayed silent for days, then sent a short text. Bro, I think you did the right thing. But it wasn't enough to ease my anger. Ryan was on that flight too, and he didn't look back for Amelia either. After the trial, I was exhausted. I took a few weeks off work to be with Amelia. She still startled in her sleep, still clung to my hand at the sound of announcements. I kept taking her to Sarah, the child psychologist. During each session, I sat outside, hearing Amelia's laughter slowly return, though still fragile. Sarah said she was making progress but would need time to overcome her fear of abandonment. I nodded, thanking her, but inside I knew I'd never forgive myself for letting her go through this. Every night I sat by Amelia's bed, watching her sleep. I stroked her hair, whispering promises I knew I'd keep for life. "I'll never leave you alone again," I said, though she was fast asleep. The hallway light fell on our photo, Amelia's radiant smile, a small flame banishing the darkness in my heart. I knew this fight wasn't about winning, but about helping Amelia trust the world again. And perhaps also about helping me, the boy from years ago, find the light I'd lost long ago. 2 months after the trial, as the noise began to settle, I decided to fulfill the promise I'd made to Amelia. A real trip to Disney World. No family of mine, no cold glances or sharp words, just the two of us writing our own story. I wanted Amelia to have a beautiful memory, to see that despite the world's harshness, her dad was here, ready to do anything to bring back her smile. I booked plane tickets, chose a small hotel near the park, and planned the trip myself. No more $7,000 cash envelope, no more family promises. This time, it was all on me. On the morning of departure, Amelia woke earlier than usual, darting around the apartment in her blue dress and sparkly pink shoes. "Daddy, today I'll meet Princess Elsa, right?" she asked, clutching Mr. Fluffy, her eyes brimming with excitement. I smiled, ruffling her hair. "Yes, sweetheart. And Mickey Mouse, too. Don't forget your sketchbook to capture it all." Amelia nodded, stuffing her small notebook into her backpack, humming a song from Frozen. Watching her, I felt a peace I'd sought for years, the peace of knowing I was doing right, bringing joy to my daughter. On the flight to Florida, Amelia sat close, gripping my hand as the plane took off. I felt her small hand tremble slightly, likely from the airport memory still lingering. I squeezed her hand, smiling. "Daddy's here, sweetheart. Everything's okay." She looked at me, her radiant smile returning, and I knew she was slowly regaining her trust. When the plane landed in Florida, golden sunlight poured through the window, as if chasing away the darkness in my heart. I glanced at Amelia, her face pressed against the glass, gasping at the clear blue sky. "Daddy, Florida's so pretty," she squealed. I laughed, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Our first day at Disney World, Amelia was a whirlwind, running everywhere, laughing brightly amid the crowds. She took photos with Princess Elsa, ate melting vanilla ice cream, and screamed on the roller coaster. I followed behind, quietly watching, camera in hand, capturing every moment. Each of Amelia's laughs, each time she turned back, calling, "Daddy, look at this," pieced together the cracks in my heart. I thought of my own childhood, sitting silently at the table's edge, unnoticed. I didn't want Amelia to experience that. I wanted her to know she was the center of this world, at least in my eyes. That evening, we stood under dazzling fireworks by Cinderella's castle. Amelia leaned her head on my shoulder, her eyes reflecting the sparkling lights. "Daddy, this is the happiest day of my life," she whispered, her voice small but full of emotion. I didn't say anything, just nodded, my eyes glistening in the fireworks' glow. Amelia's words weren't just her joy. They were my childhood, the part I thought I'd lost forever, redeemed through her smile. I held her tighter, feeling like the world was just the two of us under Disney World's radiant sky. Throughout the trip, I let Amelia lead. She chose the rides, the food, even dragged me to a gift shop to buy Mickey Mouse ears. "Put them on, Daddy. You'll look so cute," she giggled, placing the ears on my head. I shook my head, pretending to grumble, but wore them, letting her snap photos. Seeing her laugh loudly, I knew these moments were worth more than any money or hardship I'd faced. Back in Denver, our life settled into a new normal, gentle and full of hope. I returned to work, but decided to open a small repair shop to have more flexible time for Amelia. I wanted to be with her more to ensure she never felt alone. Each morning I drove her to school, listening to her sing along to the radio, her clear voice regaining its cheer. I promised to join her first school field trip when she returned, and she excitedly talked about what she'd draw in art class. Amelia began opening up. She made friends at school, joined the art club, and brought home vibrant drawings. One day she handed me a picture, its rough lines full of emotion. The two of us on a bench under fireworks with a small note in the corner. Daddy kept his promise. My heart tightened. I hung it on the wall next to the photo of us at the park years ago. Each morning before work, I paused to look at it. A reminder that justice wasn't just winning in court. It was keeping Amelia's heart whole. Life for Amelia and me in Denver passed quietly, but it was a quiet filled with meaning. I'm still Jonathan Hayes, an HVAC technician, still driving my old pickup truck, still living in our small apartment with the faded wall clock. But every day as I take Amelia to school, listen to her sing along to the radio, or share pizza in the evening, I feel a serenity I've never known before. I'm not rich or glamorous, but I have Amelia, and her smile is my most precious treasure. I used to think silence was the safe way to live, a way to avoid conflict and keep the peace. But now I understand that silence can sometimes enable hurt. It allows sharp words and dismissive glances to keep wounding those I love most. Courage, I've learned, isn't just confronting others, it's daring to stand up for what's right, to protect those you love no matter the cost. I want to send a message to anyone carrying family wounds, to those who've felt invisible in their own homes. You don't need a perfect family to have a fulfilling childhood. You don't need grand promises or expensive gifts. You just need one person who dares to stand up, to love you the right way, and to never abandon you even if the world turns its back. And sometimes that person isn't a parent or anyone else. Sometimes it's you, the one who dares to break the silence, to face the pain, to protect what's right. I learned that lesson the hard way. I once thought family ties justified forgiving everything, overlooking hurt, bowing to reprimands. But I was wrong. Family isn't an excuse for toxicity. If you ever have to choose between family honor and your child's safety, choose safety. Honor can be rebuilt, but a child's trust, once lost, can never be fully regained. Amelia taught me that, through her red-rimmed eyes at the airport, her startled wakings in the night, her radiant smile under Disney World's fireworks. My life after the lawsuit didn't change much materially. I still work at the repair shop, meticulously checking circuits and cooling systems. I still drive Amelia to school each morning, still pause before her drawing. Daddy kept his promise, to smile. But inside, I'm more at peace than ever. I'm no longer haunted by dismissive glances or trapped by past reprimands. I did what was right, what a true father had to do. I protected Amelia, kept her heart whole, and in the process I found myself. My story isn't just a journey for justice, it's a journey to reclaim the young Jonathan, the boy who sat silently at the table's edge, yearning for love. Through Amelia's smile, her scribbled drawings, her bright-eyed calls of "Daddy," I found that boy. I held him close, told him he deserved love, deserved respect. And I kept that promise, not just for Amelia, but for myself.